Hi, Rilus Dana here for Mott Legal and Dana and Associates, live on both of those pages today. Thanks for tuning in. So today, the topic I want to talk about is subtrust. So what is a subtrust? It's the trust created by another trust. So thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, anything you'd like to see us or see me talk about today, leave a comment, let me know. Love to answer your question or discuss any topics that you have in mind. Will and Anna are in other meetings today, but they may join us or they might join us in the stream depending on if they finish. So if I see them in the studio later, I'll add them, but it looks like it's going to be just me today. So let's share my screen here. I have a presentation here I want to show. So today the topic is subtrust. So let's play from right here. So what is a subtrust? So these are some of the diagrams showing this is a single trust, what a single person does. So this is why they're alive. And then after they pass away, this dotted line below this is representing the subtrust, meaning what are the terms after they're gone. This is a continuation trust that a married couple would use, where after one person passes away, the trust continues for the surviving spouse, and then after they're both gone, subtrusts are created. Now, some plans, sometimes married couples or partners, we end up doing two single trusts where they each do their own single trust. So again, above this dotted line is while they're alive, and below the dotted line is after they pass away and when the subtrust is created. So we use these generic little these diagrams to design the plans, and we drag around the different bank accounts and IRAs and the beneficiaries and work out a plan that makes sense for what they're trying to accomplish. All right, subtrust. I thought this little submarine is cool, so I think you'll be seeing it around for a while. Kind of reminds me of Ned's Crazy Sub or Submarine Sandwich. We used to ride our bikes as kids to Ned's and go there in high school all the time. So classic Mesa place. Maybe that's why I like the sub so much. So here's the regular revocable trust. And then after the trustors pass away is time for the subtrust. So over here, the trustee with this green visor hat that we use is this bookkeeper hat to signify the trustee. And then the beneficiaries over here, this hand is the signal that we use for beneficiaries. The most common subtrust is an age trust, meaning that we hold the assets in trust until the beneficiaries reach a certain age. So this example, this age trust is showing where it's at the trustee discretion for health, education, maintenance, and support. And then 1/3 at age 20, half at 25, and the balance at age 30. So that's an age trust. S&T, Special Needs Trust, also called a Supplemental Needs Trust. What this is a special trust designed for a beneficiary that's on an assistance program, any government benefits program like Medi-Cal, Medicaid, All-Tex. If you're receiving or if they're receiving a needs-based benefit, what a special needs trust does is it holds their inheritance inside of the trust and it supplements them and gives them what they're allowed to receive, but not too much where it's going to replace the public benefits. So that's a special needs trust. Dynasty Trust, these are also known as, the technical name is a generation skipping trust. That's the tax term, the estate tax term. Now, even though there's not very many people that are concerned about the estate tax, with the exemption being $10 million, this means that you're not subject to the estate tax unless you have more than 10 million in the estate. I like these dynasty trusts. What these do these protect the beneficiaries, their inheritance. Instead of receiving it outright, they'll eventually gain control of this trust. So they can control their inheritance in a future date, but it stays protected from a divorcing spouse or any type of creditor. Now, a lot of times I'm talking about these issues to clients to say, you know what, Rilus, I'm not worried about my kids. They're good kids. They pay all their bills. They're responsible. They don't have any types of any creditors. Well, one potential creditor that people don't think about until it happens is a car accident. That's an event that can create liability, and then all of a sudden your assets could be at risk. So the Dynasty Trust is a way to put another layer of protection. I'll show some more details how that works here in a second. Education trust. So this is another type of subtrust that we do. So an education trust, there's a couple of different ways that we design these. Sometimes sometimes we do what I call a common pot trust, where the money is held for the benefit of a class. Usually it's like grandkids or nieces or nephews, and we hold a sum of money that's available for them to use for education expenses. And sometimes these trusts, they make it what I call a use it or lose it trust, where if the grandkids don't use it, once the youngest grandchild or once the youngest beneficiary reaches a certain age, then the trust will terminate and distribute the money to somewhere else. So that's a way to really create an incentive where the money can only be used for education or for the purpose that you want. And if they don't ever use it for those purposes, it can go somewhere else. And then a pet trust. These are fun as well. So something you can do in Arizona, I believe California as well, has a statute that allows you to do a pet trust. But the way the pet trust works is it appoints a caregiver for the pets, and then it appoints a trustee to pay for the caregiver. So money is held inside of the trust for the benefit of your pet. The trustee of that trust can appoint a caregiver. And I did one recently. We made a large gift to a cat. This cat's hooked up. But the way it works is they have a caregiver. And if the caregiver goes without incident every year, they get a bonus from the trustee. So they get so I thought that was a good way to really make sure this cat has an awesome life. Okay, so before I get into the Dynasty Trust, I want to go through and show how the Age Trust works. So this is the most common subtrust. This is what's included by default in all of our documents. We always do at least an Age Trust, and then sometimes people will need an additional type of subtrust as well. Okay, here. So this is the trustee here. This example, the trustor already passed away. So the trustee's been appointed. The beneficiaries are down here. And then we'll look at their ages. So their ages 33, 21, and 18. So what happens here, trustee decides to sell the house in this scenario. Oops. Is that all we... Okay, that's all we got. So what happens, so since this beneficiary is over the age of 30, he's 33, then he'll receive the balance of his share. That'll go straight out to him. Now this 21-year-old, his share, so he's over 20, so he'll receive 1/3 immediately. And then the rest of his share, his 1/3, it looks like, will be held in a trust for him. And then when he reaches 25, he'll receive half of the balance. And then at the age of 30, he'll receive the rest. This youngest beneficiary over here, 18-year-old, she's under 20. So all of her share will be held in trust for her until she reaches those ages. So that's how an age trust works. Now Dynasty. So let's look at the Dynasty subtrust. All right, so trustors pass away, 3 beneficiaries, Dynasty subtrust. So the assets in trust, it's at the trustee discretion to make distributions out to the beneficiary. So the assets stay in the Dynasty Trust, and the trustee decides if and what the beneficiaries get. They have a power of appointment. Sometimes I joke and call this the power of disappointment, but what a power of appointment is it gives the beneficiaries, so they can decide where this trust will go once they pass away. The default beneficiary is usually their children. The reason I call it the power of disappointment, it's because the children upset them, their children, the grandchildren. They have the power to disappoint them and change the beneficiary, give it all to charity or give it somewhere else. This Dynasty Trust is estate tax free. So free. This is an estate tax tool. This Dynasty Trust, like I said earlier, the technical name is a generation skipping trust, meaning so there's the generation skipping transfer tax. So there's a special exclusion that the generation skipping transfer. The way I understand it is it's a certain amount that you can transfer upon your passing without paying any estate tax on it. Now, the estate tax exemption that we talked about is currently $10 million. The GST exemption is the same amount. I'm told that it's at different times in history, those have been a different amount, but as long as I've been doing this, the GST amount has always been the same amount as the estate tax exemption. So the generation skipping, what that means is that once money goes into this trust, so Mr. and Mrs. Estate, let's say they transfer $10 million in here, so no estate tax would be due at that point. After the kids pass away, so when this share goes to their children, the grandchildren, it is not subject to the estate tax again. That's what the generation skipping means. It means that it's outside of the child's estate, and it's not going to be subject to the estate tax again. So the name, generation skipping, it's not that we're skipping a generation of beneficiaries. It's not that you have to skip your kids and give straight to your grandkids. It's that we're skipping the estate taxes. Now, the estate tax, you may be thinking, so what? I don't have a $10 million estate. I'm not concerned about the estate tax. I start to recommend these Dynasty Trust whenever a single beneficiary is going to get more than $500,000. So that's my level where that's some lasting money. They may pay off a mortgage, maybe they pay off some student debt, and there's still probably going to be a chunk sitting there. So if there's a chunk sitting there, I like to keep it protected. So, currently we're not worried about the estate tax, but by having these assets where they're avoiding the estate tax in the future, that's the best way to give asset protection for the beneficiaries. Because if it's not going to be taxable, it's also out of reach for a creditor. Okay, so the Dynasty Trust, a different trust gets appointed for each of the beneficiaries. So the trustee over here, it's got 3 different trustee hats, meaning he's in charge of each of these Dynasty Trusts. This oldest beneficiary at age 33, he gets to become the trustee at age 35. It's the same for all 3 of them. So he's a couple years away. Until he reaches that age, the assets in trust are at the trustee discretion. So meaning whatever distributions that he wants or whatever money he wants to get out of the trust, he'll see the trustee. Now, to get the maximum protection with these Dynasty Trusts, you'll want to keep all your assets inside of them. So this beneficiary here, even though the trustee's in charge of it, he can go to the trustee and ask for whatever he needs. Now, if he wants to buy a house, instead of pulling money from the trust into his name to buy a house, what they'll do is buy a house in the name of the Dynasty Trust. So that way the Dynasty Trust owns the house and it stays protected. Okay, time passes on. This oldest child is now 35. So what happens with the Dynasty Trust is he gets to become the trustee. So his inheritance still stays inside of this Dynasty Trust. He doesn't own it individually. but he has all the control over it. So now instead of going to the trustee, he has the ability to make the decision himself for whatever he wants to pull out of the trust. But again, if he leaves it inside of the trust, then he has protection. And with himself serving as a trustee, he has the flexibility. So if he wants the trust to invest in a cabin or a vacation property, he can certainly do that. So he can use these assets however he wants as the trustee. So that's the Dynasty Trust. That's how you want to get your inheritance. So if your parents, if you've seen their estate plan, if you've seen how it's done, you want to make sure that they have something like this set up for you, where you can receive your inheritance in a way where you get protection and you can also have the control over it. Let's back up here a little bit. So these different sub-trusts, we have the age trust, and these are examples of different types of sub-trusts that Mott legal attorneys can do. Something that we have in our tools. So age trust, that's the default one everywhere. Special needs trust for beneficiaries on receiving any type of benefit, and dynasty trust if you want to give a greater level of protection to your beneficiaries, and an education trust. Now it is possible, and it's not uncommon to have multiple types of sub-trust. So we design plans sometimes where there's maybe there's one beneficiary that has some special needs, so we do a special needs trust for them. We do a dynasty trust for all the children who are receiving a bulk of the inheritance, and then maybe an education trust for the grandkids or nieces or nephews. So yeah, lots of different options with sub-trust, and yeah, a way that you can protect your family. So I hope you found this informative. If you'd like to design your own plan, that's something that we can help you out with. Let's see here. Let me get my banners on here. There we go. So there's our number down below. Yeah, there's our number. If you want to schedule your a meeting to go over your plan, we're meeting people mostly virtually still at this point. We are taking some in-office meetings, but we're pretty much restricting everything to virtual at this point. It's just as effective, if not more effective in some cases. So to get started, the personal family legal session, that's a meeting where you meet with an attorney, go over what your goals are, what you're trying to accomplish. They may or may not get out this spreadsheet with you on the video call, and depending where you're at, they'll recommend something, along these lines for you. A timeline, the way our plans work, we let's get that off of there. There we go. So timing of a plan. So first meeting, after you meet with an attorney, they'll design a plan that's right for you. Then they'll quote you a flat fee if you want to implement that plan. And then you'll start designing that plan right in that first meeting. And then we send you drafting instructions to confirm everything that you've decided that day. So you get a little bit more time to think about it, think about those important decisions. And then after you confirm that it's your wishes, then we start drafting the documents, and you'll meet with an attorney about 2 weeks after that. And you'll meet with the attorney and review all the documents together, make sure that they capture your wishes and that you understand the moving parts. And then you'll mark all the documents as final. Then you'll have a signing meeting. So that the way we do the signing meeting, we were doing a flyby, but it's gotten too hot. The flyby was outside of our office. We had the documents ready for you, and then the notary and the witness would be inside. Now what we're doing, we're practicing social distance. We get all the documents ready for you, and we leave them in the conference room for you. Then you go in there by yourself. The notary will you'll check in with the notary to leave your IDs and all of that, and you go into the conference room yourself, sign the documents. After you sign everything, we have you wait and we check them on our end just to confirm that you signed everywhere. In the beginning, we were having some problems where people missed some signatures and they're having to come back. So we've updated our process where after you sign, we'll come in, check your work just real quickly, making sure that you got everything. And that's it for the signing meeting. It's pretty short. And then you'll have one more meeting with the attorney that we call the trust asset coordination session. This is where they'll go over the funding recommendations, meaning who should the beneficiary be of your IRA accounts and life insurance, and how to change the ownership of your bank accounts and real estate. So total process takes about 6 to 8 weeks. We found that's a good time to let things sink in properly. We could go faster. We just, like I said, we found that's kind of the optimum time where people, if we go faster, what happens is that people are more likely to want to make changes later, or when it's time to sign everything, they're like, you know what, I've been thinking about this, and I want to change everything to something else. So if you'd like to get your own plan started, give us a call today. Thanks for tuning in.